Success, real success, begins not with what a man possesses, but with how he thinks. The top 1% do not simply act differently, they think differently. They do not rely on chance. They design their lives with precision, intention, and absolute clarity of purpose. While the majority drift with the current, hoping life will hand them something worthwhile, the top 1% seize the rudder and carve a course through storm and calm alike. They do not wish for success, they expect it. They do not hope to win, they plan to win. Their thoughts are governed by discipline. Where the average mind is cluttered with worry, complaint, and distraction, the elite mind is sharp, focused, and singular in vision. They think in terms of results, not obstacles. When faced with hardship, they ask not, "Why me?" but "How can I rise through this?" They understand that every limitation is merely a suggestion, not a law. They reframe pain as fuel, failure as instruction, and rejection as redirection. The top 1% do not avoid discomfort, they lean into it. They know that growth demands pressure, and greatness is forged in the furnace of adversity. Look closely, and you'll find that they guard their mental environment like a fortress. They do not permit gossip, negativity, or pessimism to lodge in their mind. Their inner world is too precious. They know that every thought they hold shapes their destiny, and so they feed their minds only that which strengthens their aim. They do not think in terms of limitation. The common man asks, "Can I afford this?" while the top 1% ask, "How can I create the means for this?" The average person believes he is a product of his circumstances, but the top 1% understand that circumstances are molded by thought, action, and persistence. These individuals visualize. They see their goals long before others do. Not in vague daydreams, but with vivid intensity. They hold the image until it becomes reality. They train their minds to believe before they achieve. And when belief is embedded deep enough, it compels action, and that action invites success. While most people are ruled by emotion, the elite are ruled by principle. They are unmoved by temporary setbacks because they are fixated on a permanent vision. Where others are distracted by opinion, they stay loyal to their mission. They think long term. The masses crave immediate gratification. But the top 1% delay pleasure for the sake of power. They will sacrifice comfort today for freedom tomorrow. They understand that success is never an accident. It is the result of a deliberate, sustained commitment to thinking differently than the crowd. They take ownership, complete ownership. They do not blame, they do not point fingers, and they do not wait for someone to rescue them. If their life is not what they want, they change it. If the environment does not serve their growth, they leave it. They know the only security in life is the security they build themselves. Their mind is not reactive, it is creative. They do not sit back and hope. They initiate, they build. They take bold steps where others hesitate. They understand that fortune favors the bold, not the passive, not the timid. The top 1% have mastered their inner world. They speak to themselves with intention. They fuel their self-image with power, not pity. They talk of possibilities, not problems, and in doing so, they align themselves with forces greater than luck or timing. They become unshakable, and so I ask you now, how do you think, not what you say you want, but how do you think, for as a man thinks, so shall he become. If you wish to rise, you must rewire the mechanism by which your reality is shaped. You must question every thought that limits you. You must destroy the beliefs that were handed to you by those who gave up on their own dreams. Because if you want to join the top 1%, you must begin to think like them. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, but now. The key is in your mind. Turn it. Unlock the life waiting behind it. The mind is the starting point of all riches, all advancement, all power. Every achievement known to mankind was first born in the secret chambers of thought. The great divide between the masses and the top 1% does not lie in bloodline, in inheritance, or in privilege. It lies in thought. The top 1% of people do not stumble into success. They do not wait for fortune to smile upon them. They command their lives with the greatest weapon known to man, purposeful thinking. You see, the majority allow their thoughts to be shaped by the winds of circumstance. They think in reaction, not in intention. When faced with adversity, they allow fear to cloud judgment. When exposed to opinion, they let doubt creep in and take residence. Their minds operate like unguarded fortresses. Any thought, no matter how weak or damaging, may enter and dwell. They become slaves to the environment, subjects of external influence. But the 1%, they are different. They take hold of their mind like a master craftsman takes hold of his tools. They do not hope for the best. They design it. They understand that the human mind is fertile soil, and it will grow whatever is planted in it, whether it be weeds or wheat. And so they plant thoughts with precision. They do not think by accident. They think on purpose. They begin each day with a clear aim. They write it, speak it, believe it. They define what they want with such clarity that every thought, every decision, every action is aligned with that vision. There is no confusion, no drifting, no mental fog. They walk through life with the confidence of one who has already arrived, because in their mind they have, the picture is already built inside, the outer world is simply catching up. Ask yourself, what drives your thought? Are you governed by a definite chief aim, or are you like the leaf in the wind, blown this way and that by whatever life hands you? The 1% have made a choice. They have chosen their vision, chosen their thoughts, and chosen the path they will walk regardless of the storms they face. Do not mistake this for mere optimism. This is not the empty chanting of positive words while walking in circles. This is not the hollow promise that thinking alone will deliver riches. No, the thinking of the elite is backed by will, by work, by relentless execution. But that execution is guided by a mind that knows what it wants. The man who has no direction will be tossed and turned by every wave, but the man who thinks with purpose anchors himself in certainty. He does not entertain every idea, he does not debate his worth. He does not get lost in the opinions of lesser minds. He has decided, and that decision has given him peace. Now consider this, the top 1% are not born with this mentality. They build it. Brick by brick, they construct a mental framework that supports greatness. They read, they listen, they surround themselves with other builders of thought. They remove the noise, the gossip, the chaos, and replace it with silence, with focus, with intention. They speak to themselves in powerful terms. They use the voice within not to curse their fate, but to declare their future. They understand the power of repetition, the strength of affirmation, the necessity of mental discipline. Their thoughts are not random, they are crafted. Each thought is a stone, and they are building an empire from the inside out. The average person lives life backwards, waiting to feel successful before they think successfully, but the elite think as if. They carry themselves in the manner of their ideal. They think like the person they are becoming, not the one they used to be. And this shift, this change in thinking, creates a magnetism that draws the resources, the people, and the circumstances required to fulfill the vision. You must ask yourself, are your thoughts worthy of the future you desire? Would a king or queen think this way? Would a creator of empires entertain the doubts, the fears, the distractions that you currently allow? If not, then you must change them. You must tear down the weak structure and build anew on purpose, with purpose. The top 1% do not wait for someone to give them permission to think big. They claim that right by force. And so must you. Cast off the shackles of small thinking. Decide with finality that from this moment forward your mind will be governed by clarity, by vision, by strength, and then begin to think like the person you were destined to become. For the man who thinks with purpose cannot be stopped. He may be delayed, but never denied. His vision may be challenged, but never destroyed, because he knows one truth above all others: he who controls his thoughts controls his fate. Adversity is not the enemy, it is the servant of the strong. The top 1% understand this with absolute certainty. They do not run from difficulty, they welcome it. They do not complain when life presses them. They lean into the pressure and transform it into power. For while the masses see obstacles as roadblocks, the few who rise above them understand them as stepping stones to greater strength. Every man is tested. It is not a matter of if, but when. The question that separates the successful from the unsuccessful is not whether hardship will come, but how one chooses to respond. The top 1% think differently in this regard. Where others see a wall, they see a ladder. Where others see a storm, they see a chance to sail deeper and prove their skill. They do not curse their misfortune. Instead, they interrogate it. They ask, what lesson is here for me? How is this shaping my character? What muscles of the mind and soul are being forged in this moment? They know that every great individual was refined through resistance. Every champion has scars. Every builder has calloused hands. Greatness does not come in times of ease. It is summoned in times of fire. You may find yourself struggling. You may be facing disappointment, rejection, failure, or loss. But hear this truth: that experience, if used properly, will become your teacher. It will become your foundation. The top 1% take the pain and squeeze wisdom from it. They extract clarity from chaos. They learn what others overlook, because they do not waste their suffering. The average mind recoils at the first sign of discomfort. It whines, it complains, it seeks the soft path, but the elite mind knows that discomfort is the very signal that progress is near. The greatest transformations occur not at the mountaintop, but in the valley. That is where faith is tested and vision is purified. Most people give up when things get hard. They misinterpret hardship as a signal to stop. But the top 1% interpret it as confirmation that they are on the right path. You see, resistance often appears strongest just before the breakthrough. The world will test your resolve not to break you, but to reveal you, to separate the committed from the curious. To think like the elite, you must reframe adversity. It is not punishment, it is preparation. It is not there to destroy you, but to define you. Every setback is a setup. If you refuse to quit, if you keep your mind fixed on the outcome, the obstacle becomes irrelevant. The pain fades, the lessons remain. They understand something else too. Resilience is a decision. It is not something you are born with. It is something you build. Every time you get back up, every time you refuse to fold, every time you choose to stand tall in the face of defeat, you strengthen the core of your being. That strength cannot be bought. It cannot be gifted. It must be earned. The top 1% view failure as feedback. They do not fear it. They study it. They dissect it like a scientist examining a formula. They do not let it wound their identity. They let it refine their strategy. They realize that every failure brings with it a message: try again, but better. And they do, again and again, until the result bends to their will. There is no shortcut around this truth. If you would rise, you must suffer. Not as a victim, but as a warrior. You must endure, not with bitterness, but with purpose. For every blow that does not break you will shape you into someone who cannot be broken. This is the mindset of those at the top. They have trained themselves to stand calmly in the chaos. They do not waste energy lamenting what they cannot control. They adapt, they evolve, they overcome. They know that pressure reveals potential. The diamond is not made in comfort. It is born under the crushing weight of the earth. So when you encounter resistance, and you will do not shrink, expand, do not beg for easier circumstances, build a stronger mind. Remember, the obstacle is not the end of the path. It is the beginning of your ascent. Think like the top 1%. Turn adversity into your advantage. See it as the training ground for your greatness. The moment you adopt this perspective, you separate yourself from the crowd. You rise above their fears. You step into a new realm where no failure is final, no setback is permanent, and no hardship is wasted. And there you begin to master the very force that stops most men cold: adversity. Use it, grow through it, and become who you were born to be. The mind is sacred ground. It is either the architect of your success or the destroyer of your destiny. The top 1% have come to this understanding through experience and observation, that one must guard the mind with vigilance, as a king would guard the gates of his kingdom. They do not allow just any thought, emotion, or influence to enter. They know that whatever finds a home in the mind eventually finds expression in action, and those actions determine results. Look around at the average man. His mind is not his own. It is a cluttered warehouse filled with the discarded opinions of others, the rusted tools of fear, and the broken furniture of regret. His thoughts are not original. They are inherited, absorbed, and often toxic. He hears a whisper of gossip and welcomes it like a guest. He listens to critics and gives them power over his ambition. He watches the news and worry floods his system. He lives reactively, passively, and without filter. But the top 1% are different. They have made the decision to own their mental environment. They do not leave the gates open. They choose what to allow in and what to reject. They recognize that every idea, no matter how small, either builds them up or tears them down. And so they choose thoughts that align with strength, vision, growth, and purpose. They are ruthless in eliminating mental poison. They do not dwell on defeat. They do not entertain doubt. They do not spend time reliving past mistakes unless to extract wisdom. They understand the immense cost of negative thinking. A single thought of fear, if left unchecked, can grow into a tree that bears the fruit of hesitation, failure, and paralysis. The elite train their minds like a warrior trains for battle. They study empowering philosophies. They read truth, not trash. They invest in learning that elevates their standards. They create affirmations not as hollow chants, but as declarations of identity. They remind themselves daily of who they are and where they are going. While others wake up and scroll through noise, the 1% begin their day in stillness. They visualize their goals. They align their minds with their mission. They feed their inner world before engaging with the outer world. They do not allow chaos to dictate their first thoughts. They understand that the day belongs to whoever controls the morning. They are intentional about their associations. They do not spend time with people who drain their energy, dilute their vision, or question their value. They surround themselves with other disciplined thinkers, men and women who elevate conversations and sharpen one another like iron sharpens iron. They would rather be alone in clarity than surrounded in confusion. This level of mental discipline is not easy. It is not accidental. It is built slowly, like a fortress constructed brick by brick, and every brick is a decision: what to focus on, what to reject, what to believe, and what to build upon. The top 1% do this relentlessly. They understand that you cannot live a first-class life with a third-class mindset. Even in failure, they guard their minds. They do not allow the sting of defeat to become a permanent identity. They reframe the loss as learning. They refuse to internalize weakness. They speak to themselves as if they were coaching a champion, not condemning a criminal. They are their own greatest source of power, not self-pity. When fear comes, and it will, they do not feed it. They interrogate it. They challenge it. They say, is this thought serving my goal, or is it sabotaging it? And if the answer is sabotage, they discard the thought without apology. Their mind is not a public park. It is private property. You must learn to do the same. You must take inventory of your thoughts. Ask yourself, would I speak this way to someone I love? Would I allow a stranger to speak to me the way I speak to myself? Would the person I wish to become allow this thought to exist in his or her mind? If not, it must go. This discipline is not just a practice, it is a standard, and it is this standard that separates the great from the average. If you would rise, you must master your mind. You must become the gatekeeper, the guardian, the sovereign of your mental space. Only then can you walk with the clarity, conviction, and courage of the top 1%. Your mind is your most valuable real estate. Protect it, nurture it, and fill it only with what builds the life you are destined to live. The average man waits. He waits for permission. He waits for the right moment. He waits for someone else to act, so he might follow. His thinking is like the flicker of a candle in the wind, easily swayed, easily dimmed, reactive to every gust of circumstance. But those who rise to the top 1%, do not wait. They do not react, they create. Their thoughts are not molded by the world, their thoughts mold the world. To think creatively is to become the master of conditions rather than the victim of them. The average man faces a problem and sees a dead end. The top 1% face the same problem and see a door waiting to be built. They are not limited by what is, they are empowered by what could be. Their minds dwell in the land of what is possible, not what is probable. And in this difference lies their greatness. They understand that true power begins in the imagination. Every invention, every empire, every breakthrough began in the mind of one who dared to think differently. While the masses cling to what is familiar and safe, the elite stretch the boundaries of what is possible. They do not ask, "Can this be done?" They ask, "How will I do it?" And then they act in faith long before the evidence shows up. They are not controlled by the opinions of others. They do not seek validation before taking a leap. The creative thinker walks into the unknown and makes it known. He does not fear failure because he understands that innovation requires risk. He embraces the unknown as the birthplace of new vision. The top 1% are solution-focused. They do not dwell on problems for the sake of complaint. When a challenge presents itself, they direct all their energy toward the answer. They know that every problem is simply an invitation to grow, to evolve, to create something better than what currently exists. They think in terms of how to make it work, not why it won't. They also understand the power of solitude. Great ideas do not bloom in noise, they bloom in silence. The elite carve out time to think, not to consume, not to react, but to generate. They journal, they meditate, they reflect, not because it is fashionable, but because they know the mind is a tool, and it must be sharpened in stillness. They step away from the chaos of the world so they can return with something the world has never seen. This is not wishful thinking. This is strategic creation. Their ideas are not born from fantasy, but from disciplined thought. They study patterns, they observe trends, they consume quality input, and then they mix it with imagination to produce something original. The creative mind of the top 1% is both an artist and a scientist, visionary yet grounded, daring yet deliberate. Their creativity is also deeply tied to their belief system. They believe that there is a way, always. When one path closes, they do not retreat. They redesign, they reinvent, they reimagine, while the average man throws up his hands and says, "There's nothing I can do." The elite mind declares, "I will find a better way," and so he does. This mindset creates opportunities where none existed before. It unlocks resources, relationships, and revenue through ideas that others never considered. It turns scarcity into strategy. It transforms limits into leverage. The world bends to the one who thinks creatively because creation always trumps reaction. You must train your mind to do the same. Do not wait for the answer, become the one who creates it. Do not wait for someone to solve the problem. Design the solution. Do not echo what has been said. Speak what has never been heard. The power to rise lies within your mind if you will only stop reacting to life and start creating it. Remember, every advantage you see today was once an idea in someone's mind, someone no smarter than you, but perhaps bolder, perhaps more willing to think differently. The world rewards those who dare to think for themselves, who look at a blank canvas and do not fear it, but celebrate it. The creative mind is not a gift granted to a select few. It is a discipline, a choice, a habit. And if you will begin to cultivate it, by choosing to see possibilities, by silencing distractions, by believing in your own capacity to produce, you will find yourself walking among the 1% who no longer follow life, but lead it. Begin now. Take one problem and see it as an opportunity. Take one limitation and ask, what could this become? And then think, not as the world expects you to think, but as the world needs you to think. Creatively, boldly, differently. Success never arrives uninvited. It is not accidental. It is summoned by the man who prepares himself in thought, in spirit, and in action long before the opportunity arrives. The top 1% understand this truth as a law, not as a possibility, but as an unwavering principle. They prepare before they are ready. They act before they are recognized, and they discipline themselves long before the reward appears. You see, the average person waits for the moment. They wait for the right day, the perfect time, the visible sign, and while they wait, the moment passes them by, but the top 1% have already moved. They do not wait for readiness. They create readiness. They do not say, when the time comes, I'll be ready. No, they say, I will make myself ready now, so that when the time comes, I will be unshakable. They train in silence. They build in obscurity. They rise in the shadows where no one is watching, and that is what separates them, for they do not need the applause to stay committed. They are not moved by recognition. They are moved by purpose. They understand that when you prepare in private, you are rewarded in public. Think about the oak tree. It does not begin as something mighty. It begins as a seed buried in the cold, dark soil. No one sees it. No one praises it. But beneath the ground, a miracle unfolds. That seed breaks open. It roots itself. It builds strength where no eye can see, and only after it has secured itself deeply does it finally emerge. Quietly, confidently, powerfully. So it is with the mind of the elite. They do not boast. They do not rush. They understand that timing is earned through preparation, and every day they prepare, mentally, emotionally, financially, physically. They read while others rest. They practice while others party. They invest while others waste. They make themselves ready for a life that others will only dream of. Preparation is not just the sharpening of skills. It is the elevation of standards. The 1% hold themselves to a higher level even when no one is watching. They do not cut corners. They do not excuse mediocrity. If they commit to something, they deliver, not because they are being judged, but because they have already judged themselves and found no room for laziness. They study the battlefield before stepping into it. They anticipate challenges, not with fear, but with wisdom. They do not wait to learn after the test arrives. They prepare before the test is given. And when the pressure rises, when the opportunity knocks, when the storm appears, they are calm, not because the challenge is small, but because they are prepared. There is a kind of power that comes from knowing you have done the work, that you have built the strength, that your hands are ready, your mind is sharp, and your heart is anchored. That is the power the top 1% walk with, not arrogance, but earned certainty. Even in times of stillness, they prepare. They understand that quiet seasons are not wasted. They are the training ground for what is to come. The man who uses his downtime to sharpen his sword will not be afraid when the battle begins, and this is what most fail to grasp. The moment of action is too late to begin preparing. Preparation is proof of belief. If you believe your future demands more from you, you begin to prepare now. If you believe that opportunity will come, you do not sit idle. You condition your character to receive it. The top 1% are obsessed with becoming the kind of person who deserves the life they desire, and that begins with preparation. Ask yourself, Do your daily habits reflect someone who is ready? Would the person you are today survive in the life you claim to want? If not, then it is time to rise, time to train, time to become the version of you that is prepared for greatness. There is no mystery here. You cannot cheat preparation. You cannot substitute it with hope or charm or luck. You either prepare or you perish, and those who prepare, not once, not occasionally, but daily, they rise, not by accident, not by favor, but by law. Begin now. Take account of your future and ask what it demands from you. Then start giving it. Train yourself while others rest, read while others scroll, build while others wait, and soon you will find yourself standing among the 1%, not because they chose you, but because you chose to prepare. The top 1% do not think in terms of moments, they think in terms of momentum. They understand that success is not created in a flash, it is built day by day through consistent, focused, intelligent effort. While the masses chase quick wins and instant gratification, those at the top discipline themselves to stay the course, no matter how long it takes. The world is full of starters, men with a burst of ambition, a flash of excitement, a temporary high of motivation. But motivation fades, emotion is fleeting. The 1% do not rely on feelings to carry them forward. They rely on systems, habits, and long-term vision. They see beyond the moment, beyond the noise, beyond the temporary pain. They are driven not by the pleasure of now, but by the promise of what is to come. They understand that greatness is the reward of endurance. It is not won by those who sprint in excitement. It is won by those who endure in discipline. Consistency is their secret. Day in and day out, they do the work. When it's boring, they do the work. When it's hard, they do the work. When no one claps, when no one notices, when the reward is still miles away, they do the work. They have trained themselves to act according to purpose, not mood. They don't need to feel like it to show up. They show up because their future depends on it, and this simple difference, this commitment to show up regardless of how they feel, is what puts them in a class of their own. The average mind is reactive. It operates like a thermometer, changing with the climate, but the mind of the elite is proactive. It is the thermostat, setting the tone, controlling the environment. They wake up early not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. They manage their energy, their time, and their attention like precious assets, because they are. They also understand that small things become big things. A small act of laziness repeated enough times becomes a habit. A small act of discipline repeated daily becomes momentum. They treat every task, no matter how minor, with excellence, because they know that how you do anything is how you do everything. They are not addicted to variety. They are devoted to mastery. They understand that repetition is the path to refinement. While others are distracted by the next shiny idea, they dig deeper into the one they've already chosen. They would rather be world-class at one thing than average at 10. That's the mindset of the master, and they are not discouraged by slow progress. They know that progress, even if invisible today, compounds like interest. A man who improves just 1% a day in 1 year becomes nearly 40 times better than where he began. They do not need to see immediate results because they trust the law of compound growth. They are patient with results, but relentless in action. Consistency also gives them something most people never experience: inner confidence. Because confidence does not come from words, it comes from proof. When you keep the promises you make to yourself, when you follow through day after day, you develop a quiet strength. You no longer hope you'll succeed. You know it because your track record proves it. They do not stop when they are tired. They stop when the job is done, and even then they do not truly stop. They prepare for the next round. There is no off-season for the mind that is set on greatness. There is no finish line for the man whose purpose drives him forward. He rests, yes, but even his rest is strategic. Even his breaks are part of a larger design. This consistency is not glamorous. It is not loud. It will not make headlines, but it will build empires, it will shape legacies, it will separate the man who tries from the man who transforms. The top 1% are not lucky, they are not superhuman, they are simply consistent in a world addicted to chaos. If you want to rise, you must commit, not just when it's easy, not just when it's fun, but especially when it's difficult and dull. You must build your days around discipline. You must become the kind of person who follows through, no matter the emotion, no matter the circumstances. Success is not owned, it is rented, and the rent is due every single day. The top 1% pay that rent with consistency, and that is why they live where few others ever arrive. So choose today, choose to be consistent. Not once, not twice, but always. That is how the climb begins, and how the summit is reached.